Alright, in this small little video here, I'm going to go over how to put a simple gas pedal with no governor on a single cylinder Briggs. With no governor, you can get more RPM, more torque and everything, more speed out of your mower, especially if you already have a pulley swap. Now, of course, first thing you need is the pedal itself. I took one of the old mower deck brakes that ran on the pulley of a Craftsman ride, and I took it off and pulled the brake pad off it. Just punched it out. You don't need to do that, but it works with it. It's ran through a bolt hole in the frame here with a return spring ran into the frame. You see it returns pretty good. If you look around the edge, from this side you'll see better. It's ran through with a nut on the frame to keep the bolt itself from wobbling around. Then it has this big washer and a lock nut, and it's tight so it can still move, but it can't move too much. That's the key. You want it to be able to move but not have too much wobble. As you can see, it's not too bad. Then for your cable itself, you want to keep it as cheap as possible probably. I just used a mower deck engagement cable, as you can see there. Ran through a bolt hole. I drilled in the bracket. See it? This one has a nice eye on it, but you can also run a bolt and a nut and just clamp it on the edge of the cable there and just tighten it down real tight, and it pretty much just squeezes it real hard like that, and it's not going to come loose. I've done that before. It works great. The cable has this bolt with spacers on it, and this big nut spacer tightens against the cable pretty good and tight. That keeps it from sliding. As you can see, I can shake the whole mower with that cable. It's nice and tight. And then I have this zip tied here because it was hanging down too low and it had too much play. So I just ran some zip tie around it. Then that cable loops behind my steering box into another hole in the frame with another washer tightened on it. See, it's not going anywhere. Well, it might go somewhere. I need to tighten that nut down. It's threaded to the frame, but it's stripping out. I need to tighten that down. Now, on the other end, you're going to have to remove this plate. It's useless. But something you can keep is the spring that goes right there, that connects to right there on your governor arm. Is a useful part for a return spring. I used a little clip like this. You can probably bend up a linkage like that and then hook it into one of the stock bolt holes here into the return spring. And I drilled a little hole up here in the arm. This zip tie I need to cut off, it's useless. I drilled a hole in the arm right there though, and then just took the stock spring that was on the deck engagement cable and ran it through. As you can see, it works good. Push the pedal. Not much play. There's the carburetor side itself. Wide open and idle. And of course, if you do that, you're not going to have any choke anymore because the choke was operated by that piece. So you take your old hand throttle cable. In this case, I actually took an opposed twin throttle cable. I bolted it into the dash on the opposite side because it was too long. You might need a longer throttle cable for it. In this case, I did. And you just bolt it into the dash. Then right here on this plastic piece on the carburetor, there's a screw hole. So you put a screw and a washer, and it makes sure it's not too long, otherwise it'll go all the way through into here. This is a wood screw, and it goes all the way through. It was like that when I got it, so I just put it back in with a washer. And as you can see, when I raise that cable, there's my choke. And that allows you to still have a choke up on your dash while being able to sit on the thing and press the gas. Here, I'll set that there. And having a gas pedal does have many benefits. It allows you to have more control. Pretty much you can be pinned to the floor going, let's say, 50 miles an hour pinned to the floor, like that red one with no rear wheels on it right there. You can be pinned to the floor going 50 and need to slow down. You don't have to push the clutch or let your hand off the steering wheel and turn the throttle down. You can just let off the pedal a little bit down here. It's in a pretty good spot. It's not got that much travel, but if you have a steady foot, you can, push it that much and have plenty of response. And this mower should be pretty good in speed. Where's my pulleys at for it? Oh, actually, down here on the transmission, that is a 2.5-inch pulley. If you're going off-road, the smallest you want to run is a 5. But if you're just wanting to go fast, like this one's made for, a 2.5 is probably the smallest you want to go. It's not going to slip too bad because it's not wet. It's my transmission mount. If you're, not new to this. This thing is a white MTD. It had a hydro. I swapped an MST in it. It's got different engine, different dash, different steering, whatever. Small wheels on the front. But pretty much, I'm trying to just make it go pretty quick around town. So I have a 5-inch I'm going to put in the front and that 2.5 in the back with no governor. This thing should be able to go 40 to 45 miles per hour. Here, turn the flash off. I can zoom out now. The hood is on that one, that white hood. I really like the way it looks, but as you can see, it's shattered. Hit my head on the fan. Anyways, but yeah, it's pretty simple to make a gas pedal. Only 2 of my 4 mowers I have here have gas pedals on them actually now. But having a gas pedal is pretty simple. That's a single cylinder one. I'll go over a little bit how I put one on the post twin. Alright, so here's how I put one on the post twin. See, nice old school oppie. It's a kind of similar idea, but it's definitely done different. So, yeah, down here I have the pedal. It had a plate screwed on, but the screw broke off, so that's on the floor. This is a transmission mount from an old mower, and a piece of pipe with a hole drilled through it, and this bolt ran through there. It has an eye bolt at the bottom, so when you push, it pulls, and it stops on that little hook back there, as you can see. And you can see how the cable is just looped around and then clamped nice and tight with this bolt. And then this piece just kind of sits here. This is the stock handle from up here in the dash. There's a zip tie on the switch now, and that's just bolted down into the frame. That's not going anywhere. This definitely has more travel. These post ones are different. The cable runs up here, has a zip tie on the frame to keep it from coming out, otherwise it was hitting my hood. And then it's ran through here with a washer and the stock location where you could run a cable. And then, kind of hard to see. There we go. So if you look in there, that little plastic 90-degree piece there, if you put the return spring on that over to the other side of your intake, it seems to have a little bit of play in between the throttle valve and the plastic piece and don't return all the way. So keep that in mind. The cables ran through that stock plastic piece there though, that 90-degree piece, and it had like this oval you can kind of see on it right there. And I ran it through that around the arm with a pin to keep it on there. Then the return spring is ran straight there down to a hole drilled in the governor plate. And that allows it to return pretty good. And having gas pedals on these two, because this one and the custom cruiser, that fast one over there, and this fast one, having gas pedals definitely helps a lot in terms of, speed, because normally these opposed twins with the stock hand throttle, which is also missing on this. I don't even know where it is now. Anyways, With the hand throttle and the governor system hooked up, 3,600 RPM max. If you bypass the governor, unhook all those linkages to just have a pedal, they'll get you up to 5,000-6,000 RPM. And, you know, going from 3,600 all the way up to 6,000, 5,000, 6,000, that's a big difference in speed. So that's why I put, you know, gas pedals on these things. This one here, this one's meant for off-road. It doesn't need to go that fast. Eventually I'll put a pedal on it because it has a hydro pedal from the factory here, which I'd like to reuse. This one's a V-twin. I'd have to figure out a different setup for that. And I can't run a pedal like that on the Brute here because it's an MTD, so it has pedals on that side from the factory. So I'd have to figure something out on the left side. Plus it's off-road too. But pretty much though, if you're going off-road, it's best to keep the governor, in my opinion, because if you have the governor still hooked up, if you're off-roading, you're going to be going over a lot of bumps. And if you want to keep it pinned, you don't want to keep it pinned and blow it up. Because if I'm going over bumps on this thing, I want to be able to just push that and leave it there. Right? So, I just use this for now. Plus, I can just downshift pretty easily in this thing. Just tap the shifter a couple times. But yeah, it's pretty simple. That's how you run gas pedals on these things.